Welcome to the Orchid training video on data views, part of the InfoManager suite of products. My name is Nathalie, and today I will take you through detailed steps to configure and set up data views. First, briefly, what is data views? Why would you want to use it? Data view turns Sage 300 optional fields into columns for ease of reporting. So that means your report development using Crystal Reports or Info Explorer or other report writers is greatly simplified. Running the reports will be faster and more efficient than having multiple left-out or join queries between the main tables and the optional field tables in Sage 300. In addition, SQL data views enables easier reuse of custom queries. So it makes it easier to deploy and upgrade because the view script is stored in Sage 300. Data views acts as a repository of all the custom SQL views that you might have created to facilitate reporting. And the SQL view, although it's not recreated automatically after a dump and load because the script is within the Sage 300 database, and you just click one button and it can recreate the SQL view. How it works: within data views, you can generate the script to create a SQL database view to link Sage 300 master files and transaction files to their relevant optional field tables. The script can then be used to create the actual SQL view in the database. The topics we're going to go through today is how to activate data view, which is part of Information Manager, and check the license. Set up data views, selecting which Sage 300 view/table/module we want to create data view for. Update the SQL database connection details, generate the actual view script, and create the view in the SQL database. We will review some configuration tips, and then we'll see how to use these custom SQL views in reports using Crystal Reports and Info Explorer cubes. And also it works in other reporting tools. The examples we're going to look at: creating a SQL view for AR customer optional fields and one for AP invoice optional fields. To install data views, you need to download Information Manager from the Orchid website. Log on, go to the product downloads area, select the version you're interested in, and choose Information Manager. Follow the install shield prompts. We're now ready to go into Sage 300 and activate Information Manager. Data activation, select Information Manager, and then you can go into Information Manager and check the license. If you have already installed Information Manager for some of the other components, you just need to check on the license screen that you're actually licensed to run database views. So Data View assists with creating SQL views in the Sage 300 SQL database. So to do this, we need to do three things in the Information Manager setup InfoSet codes. So our first example, we want to link the customer table to all the optional fields that exist on the customer table so that we can use that in a custom report, and we can list all our customers by SIC code, where the SIC code is stored in an optional field. I'm going to go into InfoSet codes and give a name to my information set. Because it's customer, I'm going to call it EBAR customer. Then on the InfoSet details tab, I'm going to select my view. In this case, the view type is the Sage 300 view, so the underlying table, and I want to find my customer. Information Manager has some predefined view types, and we will look at later what happens if you need to create, how you go about creating your own. Select a view type that's been set up for customer, refresh, and that will give data views the detail of the Sage 300 view. It's AR0024, which is AR CUS view. Next step, I'm going to set the SQL connection details that I want to use for when data views will be creating the SQL view in the database. The user needs to have rights to create a view. I can test the connection. It's successful. So I can go back to my database view and generate the script for my view and then create the view in the database. The code I'm going to give there is going to be the name of the SQL view, so it needs to be unique, can't be the same as an existing Sage 300 table, one that's currently active or potentially one that could be created if you activate a new module. So we suggest you use something that is going to make this view unique. If you're familiar with CRM, a lot of the views start with V, so we're going to stick with that same convention. BV, EB, AR, customer. Click on the Go button, and Data Views is going to create the script to create my view, linking the customer table to the customer optional field tables for all the optional fields that have been defined for the customer. So now I have a script for a view that turns the value of each option field into a column. I can save this view. And the final step is to actually create the SQL view in the database. I'm going to click here, create view, confirm yes. It's been successfully created. So let's go into SQL Server to see what it's done. My database is called Gen001. I'm going to look at the views and I can see a SQL view called VEB AR customer that I can now use. I can now use this SQL view in a custom Crystal report. I'm going to start with the report wizard in Crystal, select my data source, and in Crystal I have all my Sage 300 tables as usual, and under the views tab I've now also got my VEBAR customer. So I can use that. And if you want to be able to run the report from the Sage desktop, you would also need to have at least one table from an actual table from Sage 300 so that the table exists in the report object. So we'd use CSCOM, for example, and then we can go ahead and create the report. Create my report as usual. As you can see, I've now got a field there called temp customer, which is an optional field. I'm grouping by the SIC code, which is another optional field on AR customer. And if I look at the table EBAR CAS, I can see I've got all the optional fields available just to be able to be selected as a column on the report. So in this example, I've got a list of all my customers grouped by SIC code, where the SIC code is set as an optional field in Sage 300, very simply. So now I have a view script and I have a SQL view that I can use in my reports. Sometimes you may need to modify this view. For example, if I add a new optional field to the customer, I can come in here and click Go to refresh the script. As you can see, now I have just added this optional field called ACCT class. It's now been added to my view. So I can save this and I need to recreate it in the database. If I click Create View, it gives me a warning that this object already exists. So I need to consciously come here, drop the view, and create it again. If I refresh my view in SQL, you can see that I've now got the ACCT class as a column in my database. The maximum length for the script, for the view script, is 2,500 characters. So if you have lots of optional fields with long names on a particular table, you may get over that limit, in which case you'd need to amend the view script a little bit, possibly change the name of the alias in the table. As we've seen earlier, the first thing we do when we create a data view is to say what Sage 300 view we want to use. We have pre-configured a whole lot of views, as you can see in Information Manager setup view types. But in some instances, the view that you want to use to attach your optional fields, the view type hasn't been configured in Information Manager, and you may need to create a new one. I'm just going to briefly create one for AP invoices. So I can see here that it doesn't exist. I'm going to call it AP invoice. We can use the Sage data model, or if you have Extender inquiry view info to get the view ID for AP invoice, AP0021. See what I'm going to show, maybe the invoice number. Select the table, the view that stores the optional fields for the AP invoice. So in this case, it's going to be AP IBCO, AP0402. And finally, we have to tell it what view is storing the AP optional fields and the location that it's at. So because I'm doing AP invoices, we're choosing AP invoices. So the location corresponds to this level in AP setup optional fields. Save this. I can now create a new InfoSet code data view for AP invoices. And in my view type, I can choose AP invoice that I've just created. Click refresh. Go to the database connection. Make sure I've entered the right password. Go to the database view tab. Give it a code. And now I've got the script for a view linking all my invoices and the related optional fields. Save the view. And I can come here to create it in the database. So finally, we're going to look at how we can use this SQL view in an Info Explorer Cube example. We can see here we've got a list of invoices by vendor and by UPS zone, and UPS zone is an optional field on the AP invoice. I can see here red, white. I can expand my vendor like a normal cube. If I check my properties, in the query here, I'm selecting a bunch of fields from the view called EBAP invoice that we've just created. And if I want to add some extra fields from the invoice, I can add them here using Query Builder. And I can see all my AP invoice optional fields just there in the query. I can remove them or add them back. In this training, we've seen how to configure data views, install and activate Information Manager with the data view license, select which Sage 300 view, for example, AP invoices, AR customer, OE invoice, IC location, update my SQL database connection details so that data views can actually create the SQL view in the database, generate the view script automatically for optional fields, and then create the view in the database. We suggest you consider some naming best practices that make it easy to find the view and ensure that the view is never going to be a Sage 300 standard table name. The view length limited to 2,500 characters. You may need to refresh the view script if you've added a new optional field, and you may need to create a new view type. In the script, you can also save your own script. So if you are using custom stored procedure for custom development or custom reports, you may want to consider data view to store these custom views or custom stored procedures that are not necessarily related to optional fields. So we've seen how to use the SQL view in the Crystal report, as the view is available in the data source, and we suggested that you start off with the Sage 300 table to run the report from the Sage desktop. And in Info Explorer, the view will appear in Query Builder, and I can add the optional fields as a column to the cube. The example we've looked at there is an AR customer report and an AP invoice Info Explorer cube. For more information on data views and other Orchid products, please go to our website, orchid.systems, and look for data views and information manager. Thank you for your time.